Welcome, everybody. It is day two, final seminar today with Simon Spears from OSD. What is going on?
What's up, Simon?
Well, it's another beautiful day here in Southern California, so I guess I'm just feeling very lucky and privileged to be on your show again. I really
Yeah, you're
like it.
looking young, man.
It must be something to do with the air, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So our
No,
topic our
yeah,
topic
go
for
ahead.
today is why cranking your stereo is not the same as whole home audio. That's kind of a mouthful.
Well, yeah, yeah, and I said that, back in the day when I was living in a small house, small flat, and in England, and a big stereo. And I didn't need whole house stereo. I could just crank the one I had up, and it filled
Sure.
the entire room. And I know a lot of people kind of feel that way. Well, I've got a great stereo, so who needs a whole house? Because I just turn the one I've got up. But first, that's not a very sophisticated approach to whole house audio, and I think generally people can do better than that. And then you look at what are the various steps and stages in what constitutes whole house audio, and I think that's what I want to talk about today, and mention some of the products that we make that go into allowing your listeners to be able to achieve whole house audio at a reasonable price. And there's the big barrier, right? There's a website out there run by the Home Technology Association, and it's worth checking out because they have this budget calculator, and you can plug in all kinds of information about your property and what you want to achieve. And it could be number of TVs, it could be security, but one of the things I like to do is plug in a whole house audio system. So you say I've got a 3,000 square foot property, and I've got this. I want this many zones of audio, and I want this kind of quality. And then it tells you how much it's going to cost you to have that done by a professional.
Hmm.
And it's interesting. I looked at it earlier today, and what they say is that for 4 zones of audio, nice quality, forget about TVs, forget about anything else, just doing 4 zones of whole house audio, doing it right, and having it done professionally is going to cost between $20,000 and $40,000.
For four
That's
zones.
for 4 zones. That's what if you were wealthy and you hired a seedier kind of guy,
Mm.
that's what you can expect to pay. And so for most people, it's kind of
Little
ridiculous.
out of reach.
Yeah, and what OSD has said about doing from the very get-go is being able to offer people access to systems and audio, whether it's outdoors or indoors or whatever, at a much lower entry point. And I think we can do a lot better than $20,000 to $40,000. Um, and so that's I want to kind of go through what you can do and how to get there. And honestly, anybody listening, you got any questions, just fire them up there, and we'll take a little sidetrack and see if we can answer those questions.
That's my goal to
Um,
sidetrack you all kinds of different ways today. Like our phone conversation. Typically, you call me, Simon, or I'll call you. And how long do our conversations typically last when we talk?
it's
Like
an hour. It's an hour
at
of my
least
life.
an hour,
I'll never
like
get that.
2 hours, like next time I'm like, I'm sorry, Simon. I know that I just called to ask you this one thing, but we end up talking about all kinds of stuff. So
Well,
I,
when you're passionate about the same topic, the same subject, then you
It's
go off
easy
on
to get
tangents.
lost, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I think a lot of these folks would just be interested to like listen in on some of those conversations that we have because we get pretty technical, talking about
We
product. It's all fun stuff.
we do measurements, technical approaches, the history of it, the experts in the field, their approaches. And the cool thing about what we do, we're all pursuing exactly the same thing, and that's kind of nirvana in music, right? We just want our sounds to sound good. We want to hear what the artist intended. We want to get emotional about what we're listening to, if that's what was intended by the artist. And I was reading on one of the other forums today, a guy said, I just got my first real system and it brought tears to my eyes.
Oh, wow.
And you got to say, that's what we're about, man. That's what we should all be pursuing, is that, having a tear in your eye when you hear something that really you haven't heard before. So and OSD is all about trying to deliver that at the lowest possible price. And so let's look at how we get from 20,000 down to something a little bit more manageable for the average person. Of course, one way of doing it is what we did back in the 60s, and that's put a transistor radio in each room. Because that's multi-room audio, right? And
Right.
you dial them all into the same station, and they're all synchronized, and you're listening to the same music in every room in the house. And contrary to popular belief, it wasn't Sonos that invented wireless audio. It was Marconi over 100 years ago. And radio broadcasting had been going on for over 100 years. And in the 60s, there were hundreds of stations broadcasting dozens of different kinds of genres of music, and you could listen in your house to anything you wanted to tune in. It was free once you bought the radio. It wasn't like you had to pay a subscription to anything.
That's true, and they're all synchronized. I forgot.
They're completely synchronized.
They are,
Right.
right? I forgot about that.
And when we got into the computer age and streaming and BitTorrent, MP3 files, what we were trying to do, and this kind of goes to the core of, I guess, what we're talking about. What we were trying to do is we're trying to use the way the internet works and data streaming. We were trying to bend it to play music. It was never intended that the internet was intended to stream music. And the reason why the internet was all about data, right? You get a data packet at the beginning. There's some information at the end. There's some information. The data packet wasn't time critical. It was content critical. So music is time critical and content critical. So if you're trying to do two streams of music and make them synchronize over an IP network, it was always going to fail because there was no way of synchronizing them. And that's what was the real challenge back in the early computer days of streaming music over an IP system. Sonos, and what a company. I mean, they cracked it.
Mm-hmm.
They set up your own network. It's kind of separate from the regular network. And because of that, you can get the synchronization right. And now other people are able to do it as well. But see, there I go off at a tangent about the internet.
Yeah. Well, here's another tangent. Is we have a super chat from Isaac Sykes, and thank you for the super chat. And he says, "How can I get high res and DSD music throughout my home? Do you have anything for that at OSD?"
Yeah, I mean, there's a real simple way of doing that, and it isn't necessarily going to be through our product because of the DST element of what you're talking about. You've got to have a streaming device that can handle DSD. The high res is pretty easy. There's lots of devices out there that do high res, some better than others. And we have several streaming devices that can do 24/196, and we can deliver that to multiple locations at the same time, and we can link them all together. But equally, you could go out and get Echo Dots, and Echo's Dots, will take you to what's their highest resolution? It's 1648, I think. So not great, but better than CD quality. But if you have a device that can give you DSD and the high-res streaming that you want, then and you can link multiple ones of those together, which normally you can these days, then that's going to be the core of your whole house system. And you don't even have to link them together if you don't want to. So let me go through the process.
Yeah.
And I will answer your question, but it'll come towards the end because I want to go through it in a kind of a process stage. The simplest way of doing whole house audio is you put a transistor radio in the room, not very sophisticated. The new version, the latest generation of that, is you put a Sonos in every room. And you still get to the same effect. You can link them all together and you can have the same track playing in all rooms or different tracks playing in different rooms. It solves the problem, but it's not, the audio quality is limited to the size of the speaker. And some of these things are pretty expensive. A better way of doing that, if you're happy with having equipment that's on display, like boxes, old school kind of stuff in every room or in the major rooms in the house where you want audio playing, then my recommendation is to use like a little stereo system in each room. Buy yourself a nice little pair bookshelf speakers, nice little amplifier, have a streaming device, and make sure the streaming device can link to other streaming devices, and then you can have them playing the same synchronized music everywhere. What I would recommend from OSD, we've just launched a new active speaker, the AB5. It's powered. Not only is it powered, it's bi-amped. You can buy a pair of these for $400, and then add something simple like an Echo
Something
Dot.
like this one?
Just like the one behind your shoulder.
Oh,
Exactly like that.
How did that get there?
Yeah, look at that. So this is a new product from us, just launching. So there's a couple of different ways of doing powered speakers. One is and the cheapest way of doing it is you put a stereo amp in one speaker. You take a wire from the back, run to the second speaker, and then you've got 2 amps, a left and a right, and that's the way it works. The next step is you put a separate amp in each speaker, one in the left, one in the right, and that then goes through a kind of passive crossover, typical loudspeaker setup, and that's the second way. The third way, and the best way to do it, is using 2 amps in each speaker, so you're going active. So the tweeter has a separate speaker, the woofer has a separate speaker. The crossover is all done actively. There's no phase issues. It's the way the professional monitors do it, and it's the way we're doing it in this AB5. But we're doing it for $199 each, so it's pretty cost effective.
yeah.
And it's like you can't compare it to a Sonos, even though it's the same price, because the Sonos One is what, $420 or something. You can buy 2 of these and an Echo Dot to plug into these. And
there you go.
Now you've got a zone of audio that's going to be light years ahead of what you could do with a Sonos system. And there's lots of different derivations of that. We make stereo amplifiers, we make passive loudspeakers. There's a number of different ways that you can achieve the same goal, which is having a separate system in each room.
I'm sad about that they don't make those Chromecast audios anymore. Remember those?
Right.
Because those are great. You could stream at high rates, and you just plug it in. Very simple. I had 3.5 and optical. So anyway, no more of those. I stocked up on a bunch of them when they said they were going to stop making them. So,
well, we make a little amp now called the NeuroStream XD, and it has a bigger brother, the XD2. It's just about more power. It has a streamer built in.
Something like this?
Just like that. So it has a streamer built in, which is 24196. Has plenty of power to drive speakers pretty loud. It's where's the price on there? $299. You add a pair of our new MB5 speakers, the little bookshelves that are passive to that. They're $150 a pair, something like that, $199 a pair. And now you're up to less than $500, and you've got a preamplifier and a power amplifier with a subwoofer output, so you can add a sub to it later on if you want to. It's got a streamer built in, it's got optical in, it's got Bluetooth built in. You've got a number of different ways of communicating with it that you can do. And whatever you're doing with it, you can duplicate anywhere else in the home by having another one of the same thing. So again, all synchronized, and much better than the solution that you might get. And I keep mentioning Sonos because they're the big dog.
Yeah.
And I recognize the good work that they've done.
Just notice you have a package deal here on the XD and the
passes.
Yeah.
There we go, $429.
So this is on outdoors. Okay. So
I think that's $10 more than the Sonos ones. Two
Sonos One versus this, I'm pretty sure this will sound better. So yeah.
So anyway, so if you want equipment and you don't mind having equipment in each room, then clearly there's a number of different ways of achieving that these days. It's going to give you better quality sound than the traditional ones. Forget about Bluetooth, because you can't stream Bluetooth to more than 2 devices, so it's not really going to give you whole house audio. So that's out of the question. So it has to be one of the streaming services that is offered over the internet. But is this true whole house audio? And this is what a Cedia guy would give you for 20 grand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can hook up a bunch of these, Simon. Let's say if you had one of these setups in each room, they would all talk to each other.
Yeah.
I think I know the answer, but I just want to make sure.
Yeah, they do. They do. You can put multiple ones together, and they will all talk to each other. One of the downsides of any of these wireless streaming devices is that they are wireless and they're going to be using bandwidth. And the more of them you have, the more bandwidth they're going to use.
Sure.
And eventually you're going to run out of bandwidth and they're going to stop communicating with each other. So that's a definite disadvantage. And on bigger systems with more zones, you are going to run into issues. And it's just bandwidth related.
So how many of these can you hook up within your house?
We design systems for people as part of our design service, and we've done systems where you get to 8 or 9.
Oh, that's a pretty good amount.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they start to get a little bit. I mean, it depends on the person's network, right? If you've got an industrial grade network in your home, then you've got plenty of bandwidth, and if you've got plenty of bandwidth, then you can make things work. But typically, and increasingly, as you add more and more devices to your network, the bandwidth's going to become limited. So, I'm old school, and I think wires are better than wireless.
I'm right there with you, man. I've still got that DJ thing going, so I'm like, I do not want to use anything wireless. I got everything. I've got so many wired headphones. It's hilarious. I got one wireless pair, and that's just the Apple AirPods. Just if I actually need to use my, I need to walk around and use my hands for stuff.
Right.
Well, these Sonys are Bluetooth, but I still got this thing. Wires work.
Yeah, it's great wireless technology, but there are limitations, and people should understand that.
So I keep showing this close up here because the sub output, I think, is something that's very handy, right? You can always kind of do, some subs have high level input, like some of you guys' Travoches have high level input, but when it has sub out, it just makes it a lot easier if you have a subwoofer that has RCA input, which almost everyone does.
It's a nice little feature, and when you're using the smaller speakers that we make, and we do those mod Qs, very small loudspeakers. I love the sound of them. I think they're great near field monitors, but they stop at about 120 hertz. They don't go down any lower than that. So if you can add a subwoofer to fill in below, it makes it a nice little system. And even though those MB5s and AB5s, the bass response is pretty good for a 5 1/4, but it still isn't going to plumb the depths. And using an amplifier, you can add one of our smaller subs, and it's still very cost effective.
Yeah, I showed you guys a demo, remember, on or a graph, Chana, on the Daily HiFi podcast, where I was showing you, here are some bookshelf speakers, and I was actually having, those were the MB5s. Yeah. So I was having an issue where I had to put them close to the wall, and I was getting this huge bass bump, right? It was partially the speaker, because the speaker has to produce the tone, but it was being enhanced by the wall, right? And so, of course, 2 of those, and then I wanted to put the Travoche sub also. So the system was the MB5, right? So pair, Travoche 12 subwoofer, and then that XD2 amplifier, right? And so the funny thing is, because the sub was also against the wall, you'd say like, okay, well, that's also going to have that bass bump. The bass bump was caused by being close to this particular wall. And the cool thing is that I don't know if you're planning on talking about the DSP on your Travoche series subs, but I was able to kind of cancel out some of the bass bump. So you don't expect subwoofers to reduce bass, but I was able to reduce unwanted bass and still add like bass extension to it. So I thought that was kind of a cool way to use this. And here you are with a wireless system. I don't think you're going to be able to play with all these different things. So a lot of us are just like techie. We get to play with, all these different things, tune the system. When you get a Sonos, yeah, it's cool. The app is very smooth. It's sleek and all that. But you don't get to play with it.
It's limiting in a certain sense. Is that what you're saying?
If that's what you get. You just put them there, and I think a lot of folks just want that.
Yeah.
No, it's
and
easy.
that's cool.
It's easy.
That's cool.
And that's an interesting observation, how you use the DSP to equalize a bass bump that's including some of the sound that's coming from the main speakers. But it makes sense when you think about it, because it's just acoustics, right?
Yeah.
Just
and
sound.
With that DSP app, the iWoofer app, you're able to use some cancellation, but dial it into a certain amount. Right. So you don't want to take out the part completely. You just want to kind of level it out.
No, that IDSP, it's got its faults. It's kind of the interface is kind of kludgy. But once you get used to it, the power behind what it can do for the you can buy it as a separate piece from us, or you get it in with the Trevoches. What it can do is astonishing. I mean, man, it's very, very sophisticated or powerful processing going on for something that doesn't cost a lot of money. And for us guys who love this stuff, and we're always trying to improve our systems, and why not play around with it? And deal with the kind of the funkiness a little bit of the interface, but honestly, once you've got it figured out, it's pretty easy. It's not that complicated.
Well, what is it? 25 bands of PEQ?
It's something like that, and you can dial them into a certain frequency, and you can make them steep slopes or slow slopes. I mean, you can do a lot of different things with that.
It's pretty intense. You know what I was kind of curious about? I don't know if you have the answer to this. Is this only for low frequencies? Because I'm almost like thinking, can you use this as a DS, like a, what do you call it, a mini DSP, and just use it for full range? I wonder.
No, I think it limits to 300 hertz.
Okay. All right.
For that. Although there's no reason why you couldn't go further, except when you go further, I think the math becomes more complicated because it's much shorter bandwidth.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. But nevertheless, it's there. And it does enable you to do smart and clever things like you just found out, which I think is pretty cool. So I'd never thought of that before either. So
yeah.
But I wasn't talking about subwoofers today.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to throw that in there.
I was trying to get to the point where we say, so what's the next step up? How do you get closer to that whole house system, which is the the 20 to 40 gram ones? And the first thing you have to kind of get to is, let's remove any visible wires, let's remove any visible equipment, let's centralize the equipment, let's get it out of sight, which, and I know some of the other talkers today have mentioned wife acceptance factor, and it's a big deal. We share our homes with other people, and if we're lucky, we get one room in the house where we can mess it up and do what we want and get away with it without criticism or without too much criticism. But then, the right thing to do is to say, well, the rest of the house, I'm going to be respectful of the other people in the home and keep it uncluttered from the kind of stuff that I like. And I remember when I moved into my first house in the States, I've been here 18 years now. We moved into this house, and that was the deal. I got one bonus room, could do what I wanted. And the rest of the house, my wife said, I don't want to see a single wire. Don't want to see a single wire. Don't want to see an amplifier. Don't want to see a speaker. Don't want to see a subwoofer. Don't want to see any of that stuff. And I said, well, then, but can I still have whole house audio? And she said, sure, as long as I can't see it. I said, well, if it looked like just a flat thing on the ceiling or the wall, would that be okay? Yeah, that's fine. No deeper than a light switch or a light fitting, you're okay. So, it was a new house. I could get it pre-wired. And so in the end, I had 27 loudspeakers in that house. And
you did it.
Was,
you sneaky guy, you.
Yeah, he did it.
I did it. I got audio everywhere. And you know what? You make it easy to use. That's the next thing. And then everybody loves it because you hit a button and music plays. And if you can play it everywhere or in one place, or different music in one place, different music somewhere else, or ultimately, if it's easy to use and delivers, then everybody loves it. And you overcome the objections about wires and stuff. And that's what these kind of CDA installations do. So what's the next step from having boxes in rooms? Well, you got to centralize the equipment.
Okay.
And then you got to run wires. Then you got to run wires to speakers. And that's probably the most challenging thing for people because, if you live in a house that is going to be tough to run wires, you have to hire someone to come in and do that. Or if you're handy and someone who's good at it, you might get away with it. Is there an alternative method? Well, we came up with one, and I think it's pretty cool. So I'm going to backtrack just a little bit. We have a product called the Nero Vox, The NeuroVox is a wall plate that you can put an Amazon Echo Dot into it. And on the back of the wall plate is an amplifier, a little 20 watt per channel amplifier built in the back, and then there's a little faceplate that you can use. There it is. That's exactly what it looks like. And you have a nice little trim piece on the outside, so it all looks white.
That's cool.
Yeah. So now you put that in the wall, and you run speaker cables either side of it. And once you've cut a hole, maybe you can drill a hole in the thing, or maybe you go above or below. Maybe you can get to the next, past the next studs, so the speakers are, a little distant. Or maybe you put it to the side of your TV, and then you want to add better speakers for your TV as well. When you're mounting your TV on the wall, get one of those recess plates, drill some holes through the studs either side, put some speakers either side of the TV, have this little thing next to it or beneath it. This will take an input from the TV, and it's got obviously the Echo Dot as a source, and it's got a subwoofer output. And then you put one of these in each of the rooms that you want, either with a TV or without the TV. And then you join all these together using the Alexa app. And now you've got the whole house audio and everything's installed.
I didn't know about this.
Right, and you can put nicer quality in-wall speakers, two-way. We have a range of really cool in-wall loudspeakers. You get a subwoofer in the corner somewhere. We make some small ones that are easier to hide. So yeah, look, there's a typical situation, and you can link all of, because it's an Echo Dot. You can link them all together, and you could have that's whole house audio, as well as enhanced sound for your TV.
It's pretty slick.
So pretty slick, simple. It's a small amp, it's 20 watts per channel, and that's probably being a little generous. Mm-hmm. But when you add a subwoofer to it, you can crank it up reasonably well. But it's a kind of a halfway step towards centralizing all your equipment, because this can be done by anybody. Because you don't really, if you're putting the TV on the wall and you're using one of those recessed plates behind it, you've already cut a hole in the wall, which no one is going to be able to see, and it's finished because there's a recessed plate going to go on it. But you can get your hand in and you can drill through the studs either side, and you can get to the outside of the TV, mount your speakers, and then you can drop down below to this little NeuroVox. So I think this could be done by just about anybody. And then you've got an installed solution that looks pretty nice and sounds good.
What would something like this cost about?
Well, they're $150 for the NeuroVox. You got to buy the $25 thing.
That's crazy.
And you can buy a decent pair of in-wall speakers from us for less than $100 for the pair. So what's that? 100, wow. 250, 275 per room.
Wow.
Plus some wire. Not ridiculous.
Not huge, yeah.
No.
So you have it all.
So if you have the $500 option, which is the XD2 and the MB5, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just put those in every room, or these Echo Dots. Or sorry, what is it called?
It's called
the NeuroVox.
NeuroVox.
I didn't know about these, Simon.
Well,
these are pretty cool.
Attention, Joe.
These are cool. Well, you have like a million products. Let's be honest.
We do, and that's the joy of being able to do something like this. I get to talk about a bunch of them that people don't know about or we haven't talked about before. But no, that's a cool solution, right, for a whole house audio system, or just for a better sound from your TV.
Totally.
Yeah. There's another. If you find yourself in a house that's got old volume controls in it and some old speakers in the ceilings that don't work anymore, we get a lot of calls from people. Hey, I just bought this house. It's got some old volume controls. They don't work. I see some speakers in the ceiling. They don't work. What am I going to do? I say, easy. You buy these NeuroVoxes from us. You take the volume control out of the wall. You put this in exactly the same place. There are speaker cables running from that location to the speakers in the ceiling. You put new speakers in the ceiling. And now you've got a modern version of what you got, and it doesn't cost you much to do.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Like the new technology has really made stuff, of course, less expensive is what we want from technology, right? A lot of this stuff wasn't available not even that long ago. You wouldn't be able to do this with no Echo Dot.
Not at all.
You want better for less.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you get. You get better for less. That's progress.
That's awesome.
But I still think, because the limitations on the amplifiers in the Nero box make it, still kind of limited in terms of absolute quality.
Mm-hmm.
I still think centralizing the equipment and finding a way to wire to all the speaker locations.
Better way to go.
You want in the house, yeah. And it doesn't have to be super expensive. You can just take a simple stereo amplifier and use one of our speaker selectors. We have a variety of them that can be, to add 2 speakers, 4 speakers, 8 speakers, whatever. And it balances all the impedances out. And so you add a 2-channel amp, a source, whichever source you want, and then you add one of these speaker selectors. All of that can be done for a few $100s. You wire to the speakers, you put the speakers in the ceiling. Again, the speakers don't have to be expensive. But now you've got an installed solution.
What would be the model number for something like that so I can pull it up here?
The speaker selectors SSVC4, SSVC6, or ISSP.
SSV.
SSVC6.
Okay.
Would be a good one to look at.
I'm not seeing it. Okay.
Got it.
You got it? All right, go.
Okay. What it enables you to take the speaker output from a stereo amp. But if you've got there it is. So you can connect that to speakers B on an AVR or Zone 2 on an AVR if you've got that located, or you could have a little stereo amp for it. You take 1 pair of speakers in and you can put 6 pairs of speakers out. And it balances out the impedance, so the amplifier doesn't see an impedance it doesn't like. And then with this particular one, you can have those zones on or off with this push button, and you can change the volume in each of those zones. So pretty cool, pretty inexpensive whole house audio system.
So how does that work again? So let's say you have an AVR, which a lot of the folks who are listening do. So you have you take the output from one of the zones, and you can split it up and have
either speakers B, or if you've got when you said zones, sorry, you're right. Yeah. If you've got zone 2 or zone 3 that's amplified, then you take that speaker out into the back of this at speaker level, and then you connect. It's an entirely passive device. There's no power to it. And then you connect in this case, 6 pairs of speakers to it, using those connectors on the bottom, and it balances the impedance out. So what the amplifier sees is 8 ohms.
Wow,
got it.
Even though there's 6 pairs of speakers being connected to it,
right?
And we do a 4 for 4 pairs of speakers, and we do a 2 for 2 pairs of speakers, and then we do some other ones that can take even more different ways of doing it. Or you can have one of these that don't have the volume controls on it. It's just a simple box that enables you to get the impedance matched, and then you put the volume controls in each room.
Wow! So this is not amplified, right?
No.
Okay.
No, you're using the amp that's in the AVR.
Right. On the right here, you see these are the inputs, right? And then you got 3 pairs of outputs. Yeah. Right.
Passive like a commercial install amplifier with 70 volt or 35 volt output bus.
So yes, it's so that's sort of the next step up, because it may mean all you need is to buy one of those, wire some speakers in different rooms, and then you've got a whole house audio system that's entirely installed and wired at relatively low cost, because those things are like $150 or something. I forget the exact price, but
it was $138. The one we just looked at.
There we go. All right.
And that's actually what my mom did at her house when she was doing the remodel. We have like an old Denon AVR, a CD changer, and a little speaker selector, and then there's like 4 different areas, and we just press the button to turn it on. Though we don't have the volume controls, which I think is a nice touch. You can control the volume from there. But yeah.
And we, if you go to our website and start looking through all of that kind of stuff, you'll see we have a lot of options, and it can be tailored to pretty much any circumstance and situation and pretty much any budget. The only challenging part on something like that is wiring the speakers. You've got to run the wire somehow.
Right.
If you're repainting, then doing a little bit of patchwork on it is not that difficult. Or if you're renovating, it's the time to do it. If you know someone who's got the tools to pull wires through ceilings and up and down walls, then you can do it for not a lot of cost. But I love wires. If you run those wires, and we make the speaker cables, they come in 500-foot drums of decent cable for a couple of $100. So that doesn't add a lot of money to it either. And then we do the in-ceiling speakers from less than $100 a pair.
I like that cable, by the way. That's what I used in the garage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, cool. Good stuff.
Yeah,
good
no,
stuff.
it is.
Yeah,
it is. We sell a ton of it. But right now, a lot of people kind of beat their way to our door and buy stuff from us, and we need to be better at being proactive. We recently started working with Crutchfield.
Oh wow, that's a big boy.
That's a big one,
yeah. They like our products, and we love working with them, and they'll provide an even better profile for us. Their customer support is off the charts good, and the design systems, and I've been working with them on some of our products and how they work and what they can do, and they know it all. And those guys are good. So, I think more and more people will find their way to us, and then we can deliver these cool solutions and give people, better music in their homes, which is simply the goal.
We got a joke here. Is that gramophone in Simon's background connected to one of his wireless audio zones?
It should be, but the impedance on it, I don't know, it's thousands of something or other. I don't even know how to make it work. I've had it I found it in the attic of my parents' house and stole it.
I remember you showed us last time.
Yeah, it's an Amplion.
Last summit.
So I don't know, it might work somehow. I don't know how. If someone can tell me, I'll be appreciative. I always thought about building a little speaker into the horn, like a car audio thing.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's,
and then running the wire through the end of it and making it actually do something.
Hey, I'm sure you could.
Yeah, that's a project for the future. But anyway, look, we're kind of running time a little bit. So once you have wiring in place, you get a lot more options, and the next option would be, because that solution basically is one source to many rooms. So if you want to have multiple sources in multiple rooms, so that people could play one kind of music in one room and something outside or in another location, then you need to be looking at different solutions. And we recently introduced a product called the Max 12, which I think is what you've got on screen now.
Which one am I looking at here, Simon? I'm trying not to look at these because I'm sure all the questions will become 7-channel, 5-channel, 3-channel, your amplifiers. So
I don't want to talk about those today.
Let's stay away from those for a second.
yeah, top left.
Okay, top left. This one?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the Max 12, and what that has is 6 different inputs and 6 different speakers. So you can have 6 pairs of speakers on 6 different inputs, and you can play any of the inputs in any of the rooms. And obviously, the speakers we can call a zone. Each of the channels is amplified, but 3 of them also have line outs. So if you wanted a bigger amplifier, let's say for a large family room, you can add a separate power amplifier for that zone. Or indeed, if one of the zones isn't being outdoors, where you definitely need more power, you can add a big amplifier and run multiple speakers outside as a separate zone. There are keypad options for it, although it works perfectly well off of an app where you can select the zone that you're in and the music you want to listen to. And we've been selling this now for less than a year, and it's going gangbusters. We're doing very well with it. And you know what? It's less than $1,000.
Oh, that's good.
So, and this is exactly the kind of product that if you paid $20,000, that's exactly the kind of product you would find in the rack. Doing exactly what those guys were going to be doing and charging you $20,000 for. And
so are you?
There's 6 zones.
Are they mad at you?
No, because it's.
Are they mad?
You know what I mean? They'll be like, these guys over here.
No, they
undercutting everybody.
I work for those companies. I work for Elan and Niles and Speakercraft, and we sold these systems that cost $20,000 for 4 zones. And it's all about the client base. The Cydia guys understand that their clients are mega rich, that they're not driven by price primarily. They're driven by what they want to get. So I want music everywhere in the house. I want all my lights to be controlled. I want my security to be centrally controlled. I want to be able to turn on my bathtub as I'm driving home so that it fills to 12 inches at 92 degrees. And guess what? The Cydia guys can do that. They can deliver that to these guys. And it's just a question of cost. It's just a question of money. And Cydia has focused, the Cydia members, the guys that do these installations, they're focused only on the rich. Only on the rich. When they've tried to come down and spread the base out a little bit, it kind of falls apart. That association is based on selling rich people cool stuff.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that average man in the street doesn't want the same stuff. It's just that they're going to try to do it themselves. And it's getting easier as some of these smart home technologies become easier to do, and some of the standards that work with lighting and security, become standardized, and it's easier to do. And obviously Amazon is working hard to standardize all the protocols so that they can make everything work by voice, and they're getting better at it. It's not there yet. If you're mega rich, you don't want something that's only going to maybe work 99 times out of 100, and you don't want to have to choose products A, B, and C if you really want product Y. What the Cydia guys will do is they'll say, we'll make whatever you've got, whatever you want, we'll make it work. It's just going to cost you a ton of money, and you'll pay $100,000 on programming a Crestron system or a Savant system.
Regular guys audio says, and here I am with a stereo in every room.
Yay!
Transistor radio.
Transistor radio. That's not stereo. Anyway.
Yeah, it's cool. So driver for Control 4, what is this?
Yeah, so if I guess Control 4 is one of the entry-level control platforms. You still need to be able to program them. You still need to bring someone in who knows what they're doing. And every time you change something, you've got to bring them back in again to make the change if you put a new TV in. Not that this needs connection for that. And we have a simple driver that enables you. What that means is that as part of the Control 4 programming language, they could click on a box that says OSD Max 12, and all the commands are available, and they would appear inside a Control 4 screen. So you could select zones, you could select the music, and you could select volume, and you could select tone controls or mute or whatever. And it would all be done in the C4 universe.
I see.
That's just to make it easier. We know we'd like to do business with some of these big CI guys. And this product will sell to some of them because no one else has a product like that at that price. I mean, they'll probably charge another $1,000 for programming it and plugging it in, but that's okay. We sell a lot of these, and we tech support it. If you get one of these and you can't make something happen, you call us and we talk you through it. It's not really that hard. It's pretty straightforward. You still need a source to plug into it, right? You still need, what's your program material going to be? Is it,
right?
So that's, and you want to choose one of those, like we said earlier, that can synchronize with the other ones so they can all work together or separately. Although in the case of this product, if you just had one, let's go back to the Echo Dot story. If you had one Echo Dot and that was source one, you could go to any of the zones and say, I want to listen to source one, and it would play in one zone or two zones or all 6 of the zones. And there's no need to worry about synchronization because it's the same source signal.
So maybe some of your products would be good for somebody who's into like DIY. Like, they want to save some money. A lot of these folks, they know how to do stuff. Right?
Definitely.
Maybe they can just pick up some of your products instead of having to pay somebody, way too much, more than they're willing to spend. Because not all of us are rich, right? Not all of us have unlimited amount of money to spend on whatever it is to make our, like you're saying. So it's cool that they have options. People have options to do different things.
Yeah, and that's what we're about at OSD. We're about making those options available at lower price points. We that's our customer. Our customer is the guy that wants to do it themselves. and we provide a lot of support. We'll design the system for free. We'll tech support it for free. We'll do whatever we can to make it happen and make it work. And you can put that to max 12. You can stack 3 of those and have 18 zones.
Yeah.
So we've had people do that and then call us to say, "Oh, I'm struggling to make this go with this," and then we talk them through it and get it to happen.
Yeah, well, I've seen you do like when you were working with Michael with Youthman to do his outdoor setup. I saw you had like a diagram that you kind of made up and like showed him how to wire everything. Like that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a CAD drawing, it's not.
It's not a CAD drawing.
It's not, it's a PowerPoint with squiggly lines on it, but it serves the purpose, and it gets the job done, and it tells people what they need to do and how they need to do it, and normally gets them to where they need to be. And we enjoy doing that because, for instead of spending thousands of dollars, you can spend hundreds and get the same result. And I've worked for the companies that do the $20,000 rooms, $40,000 whole house systems. I've worked for them, and I get way more pleasure working for OSD because I feel it's more real.
Yeah,
I feel it's more genuine. We're not. I don't know. How do you rip rich people off? They got more money anyway.
How do you
rip them off?
They have more than enough, or what?
That's funny. I think as long as you deliver more than their expectations, then you're not ripping them off. So that's funny. So.
Well, one thing you said to me on the phone, actually, Simon, one time was, you know what? What I like about working at OSD is I have no guilt. I feel good about when you set somebody up. I'm happy. Like I know that they got a great deal.
None. Look, we as we come down in price in our products, and it doesn't matter whether you're talking amplifiers or volume controls or speakers. As we come down, we have to make compromises, right? Because it's all about what we can deliver for a certain price point. And we want to be able to deliver something to everybody. So we try to get down as low as possible. And we try to make those compromises that we make as good as possible. We don't compromise in areas where we think it's going to make a massive sacrifice in sound quality. Packaging might be a little bit less, no fancy cartons. We'll make compromises in other areas and still deliver what we think is great value for money. And I feel good about that. I feel good about that. Now, if you buy our very cheapest of everything, you've got to expect it to be relatively inexpensive, right? It's what we do. But you start to move up our range of speakers, for example, in ceiling speakers, as an example, you don't have to get very far off those very cheapest ones before you're getting something that's as good as the speakers that are put in those 20 grand systems, because they come from the same factories. We use the same materials. We use the same crossovers. We buy from the same places. We buy at lower prices. Our logistics are super efficient. We have a very thin company. We don't make a ton of profit. We don't need to, and we deliver great value. And I'm not guilty about that at all.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, we're up at 48 minutes, so I'm gonna leave time for folks to be able to ask you questions in the lobby, Simon, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, I'm going to come off of this and then send me an invitation to the lobby, because I'm going to go onto my cell phone. I've got to get in the car. We've got to go somewhere, but I'm going to take care of it from the car. Sounds good.
Well, I don't want to keep you here longer than you need to. I know you have to do some other stuff, so I want to be respectful of that. So thank you, Simon. Always good talking, and we'll talk soon on the phone for like another 3 hours.
Yeah, we will. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Jenna. Thanks, Joe.
No problem.
Thanks, everybody who's listening.
Thank you, Simon and OSD, for that wonderful presentation. And thank you guys for watching. This is the AV Summit Day 2. We are starting Day 3 tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time with our platinum sponsor, Hisense. So make sure you tune in for that. And for all the attendees, we will see you in the lobby. Have a great night, everyone.